Hello class. Tonight we're going to kind of work backwards from what we did in class today, where we're actually going to write the equations given zeros. So let's look at our first example here. It says, what is a cubic polynomial with the zeros -2, 3, and 3? So first thing we need to think of is cubic means that I have a degree of 3. So I'm looking for 3 roots. So here are my 3 roots, -2, 3, and 3. So that means like x equals -2, x equals 3, and x equals 3. So if we work backwards and add 2, I get a factor of x plus 2. Subtract 3, get a factor of x minus 3. Subtract 3 here, subtract 3 here, and have a factor of x minus 3. So this is what my function is going to look like. Okay, and this, guys, this is our factored form. And remember, our factored form of the equation is we have our zeros, and then our factors are just the opposite. So I have -2 plus 2, +3, -3, minus 3. Alright, so now if I want to get standard form, we need to FOIL this out. We need to multiply this out. So I'm going to start with these two and multiply. So I have f of x is equal to x plus 2 times x minus 3. And I'm going to FOIL that out. I'll have x times x is x squared. X times -3 is minus 3x. Plus 2 times x is plus 2x. And then 2 times -3 is minus 6. Combine my like terms. I have x squared minus x minus 6. Okay, so now I'm going to take this remaining factor down here and multiply that out. Okay, so then we just, you can use the box method, you can FOIL, you can distribute. I am going to use the distributor. I'm going to take this x and multiply it, and then the 3 and multiply it. The FOILing, when you have two different terms, kind of gets a little crazy, so I'm just going to use the distributive property. So x times x squared is x cubed. X minus x is x squared. X times -6 is minus 6x. Take the -3 times x squared is minus 3x squared. Minus 3 times -x is plus 3x. And then minus 3 times -6 is plus 18. Combine my like terms. I have 1x cubed. I have an x squared there and an x squared there. So -1 minus 3 is minus 4x squared. -6 plus 3x is minus 3x, and then plus 18. So this is my cubic polynomials with the zeros -2, 3, and 3. Okay, so our second equation is, what is the equation of a polynomial with zeros at 4 and 5? So I know that I have x equals 4 and x equals 5i. Alright, so again, if we work backwards, I have -4, -4. So it's going to give me x minus 4 of a factor. And then I have an imaginary. But remember, our imaginaries come in pairs, so if I have a positive, I also have to have its conjugate of -5i. So that would be that I have x plus 5i and x minus 5i. Okay, so again, this is my factored form. This here is in factored form. And then we're going to multiply to get standard form. So let's just make my polynomial equal that. And let's make things easy on ourselves, and let's factor the complex numbers first. So let's bring these down, multiply this out. Okay, so let's multiply the complex out. So I have x times x gives me x squared. X times -5i is minus x 5i, plus 5i times x is plus x 5i, and then plus 5i times negative gives me -25i squared. Okay, the whole idea of the conjugate pairs here is that we actually cancel each other out. So these cancel each other out, and I wind up with x squared minus 25i squared. But here is something that you guys have got to remember. I squared is equal to -1. Okay, so anytime you get multiply in this, you all need to remember this. Okay, alright. So now this becomes x squared minus 25 times negative 1, which is x squared plus 25. Okay, so that's these two factors, so I'm going to bring down this x minus 4 here and multiply that through. Okay, so I wind up with x times x squared gives me x cubed. X times 25 is plus 25x. 4 times x squared is minus 4x squared. And then negative 4 times 25 is negative 100. So this gives me x cubed minus 4x squared plus 25x minus 100. So this is my polynomial with zeros at 4 and 5i. Alright, so I've drawn a box around my last problem there. Okay, so the next one is, what is the equation of a cubic polynomial? Again, clue there right now is degree is 3, so I need 3 solutions with zeros at x at 0 and 2 minus I. Alright, so this is a little bit tricky because we have the whole imaginary thing. So I know that I have x equals 0 and then x equals 2 minus I. Alright, so that also tells me, if I know this is just be x, then I'm also going to have, if I subtract this out, minus 2 minus I get x minus 2 minus I. Okay, and then I'm going to have the other conjugate, I'm going to have x equals 2 plus I. Okay, so it has to have its conjugate, so this would be x minus 2 plus I here. Okay, so now we're going to write our factors as x times x minus 2 minus I, and then x minus 2 plus I. Alright, so the math here is not going to be very pretty. So if you just bear with me here, we're going to have this x out here and we're going to multiply this through. So to get rid of this, we're going to have to distribute this negative. So I'm going to wind up with x minus 2 plus I times x minus 2 minus I. Okay? So now we're going to multiply these out and see what we can get to cancel out. So I have x times x is x squared. X minus 2 becomes minus 2x. X times I will be minus xi. Alright, so then I'm going to take negative 2 times x here and get minus 2x. Then negative 2 times 2 is plus 4. And then negative 2 times I becomes plus 2i. And then we have I times x is plus xi. Then negative 2 times negative I times negative 2 would be minus 2i. And then I times I is minus I squared. Alright, so let's see what we can get to cancel out. Alright, so I have a negative xi here and a positive xi. They're going to cancel. I have a positive 2 and a negative, positive 2i and a negative 2. They're going to cancel. So, and then I wind up, let's combine what we have left. So I have x squared minus 2 is minus 4x. I have plus 4. And then I have the minus I squared here. But remember, I squared is equal to negative 1. So this just becomes x squared minus 4x plus 4 plus 1, which is equal to x squared minus 4x plus 5. Okay, so that's the imaginary part. But remember, we had the x over here, so I need to go ahead and multiply all this by x. So I'm going to slide over here and do that math here. So I have x times x squared minus 4x plus 5. Distribute the x there. X times x squared is x cubed. X minus times negative 4x is minus 4x squared. And then x times 5 is plus 5x. So my polynomial, a cubic polynomial with these zeros at 0 and 2 minus I, is this. Okay, now this is something we just have to be really you have to be really mindful of remembering when I have 2 minus I, you're going to have the opposite 2 plus I. You have to have the conjugate pair. They always come in pairs. Alright, another example we're going to do today. Here's a graph, and I want you to write the equation from the graph. Alright, it tells me it's a cubic, so I need 3 factors, 3 x's. So I see I have 1 here at negative 2, 2, and 3. So I have x equals negative 2, x equals 2, and x equals 3. So again, if we just work backwards, I have x plus 2, minus 2, minus 2. I have x minus 2, minus 3, minus 3, and I have x minus 3. So this is my factored form of the polynomial graph here. So all we need to do is start FOILing out. So if I FOIL this out, x times x is x squared. X times negative 2 is minus 2x. Plus 2 times x plus 2x. And then 2 times negative 2 is minus 4. Okay, so combine my like terms. I have x squared. These cancel, minus 4. And then I'm going to bring down this x minus 3 and multiply that out. So I have f of x is equal to x squared times x gives me x cubed. X squared times negative 3 is minus 3x. Negative 4 times x is minus 4x. Forgot my squared there. And then negative 4 times negative 3 is plus 12. Combine my like terms here. I have x cubed minus 3x squared minus 4x plus 12. So this polynomial function of the graph is this equation. Okay, our last example we're going to look at tonight is a quartic, which is a 4th degree, and I've gone ahead and I've identified my zeros here. I have negative 2, 2, and 3. But wait a minute, I need 4, but I only see 3. But remember, what's happening here is that this is a multiplicity, so that's actually a double root. It's bouncing there, so I can add another x equals negative 2 here. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up for you. I have factors, add 2, add 2. I have x plus 2 times x plus 2. I have 2 of those. And then this would be minus 2. Working backwards, I have x minus 2, x minus 3. So this is my factored form. Okay? And what I want you all to do is I want you to go ahead and try to multiply this one out on your own. I'll give you the answers tomorrow in class. And we'll see what we got, see if you were able to do it. One thing I want you all to keep in mind, that when we have our x-intercepts, remember our factors are always the opposite value. So here I have a negative 2, so my factors are x plus 2. I have a positive 2 as an x-intercept. My factor would be x minus 2. A positive 3 is my x-intercept. My factor would be x minus 3. We need to keep that in mind. Alright, happy multiplying, and I'll see you tomorrow.